Over 34 miles of tunnels carved straight through the stone.
She said, yeah, you know when you drive by a McDonald's, there's a scent wafting out of the vents? She's like, that's not food. That's a chemical that I made.
You can see just in case, but it kicks into a mode where you can just drive on the water now and kind of get to safety if you need.
What's up, YouTube? Today, we'll be looking at disturbing TikToks that'll make you question reality. So without further ado, welcome to Adam Strain Reacts. Let's get her done. Might be the sodium from the salt water. Don't know, but this man is totem. See, he is not bothered. Giving offers like the Godfather. Push you, cause of that state you gotta snap out of. J'ai vu le code, que la vérité érode, que la loi dérode est vraie. Corrompu, oui, en effet. Si on n'est pas producteur, la bouffe vient d'ailleurs. On dépend des autres d'ailleurs. Qu'est-ce qu'on fait? Tout le monde en parle à 7 heures.
Little Albert experiment. It was an experiment back in the 20s. What they did was they took this kid. They made sure this kid didn't have any pre-existing fears of animals. And so they would bring these animals around this child, and the child would play with them. No fears, no awkward interactions. Everything was fine. So then what they would do is they bring out like a rat, and the kid would kind of play with the rat. But then what they did was every time they brought out the rat in separate episodes, they would hit a metal pipe with a hammer, and they would make this really loud noise that would startle the child. And they did this over and over again, so that what the brain would start connecting is that the startling experience is connected to this rat. Then they do it to the rabbit, they do it with the dog, and eventually what would happen is that this child would be afraid of anything that had some type of fluffiness or hair. So if they brought a teddy bear, the child would start crying, even to the point of one of the professor's beards. When the child would see this beard, it would start crying. So then they came to the conclusion, you can condition fears. But the opposite is just as true. You can condition utopias. This is the beginning stages of them solidifying. You can condition ideas in people of propaganda.
I really like to look into a lot of that stuff because I sort of find a correlation between all these things that we learn about the brain. And then when you look at movies and games and ads, it really seems like they're utilizing that information. So it's kind of interesting what he's saying, because I don't know if you guys ever heard about the flash rates and about the way that light is not stable and has like a flash rate. Well, basically, a higher flash rate causes a certain emotional response and a lower one would cause another one. So that type of same thing doesn't have to be necessarily crying or with a baby. It could just be associating positive events with a certain flash rate or negative events with a certain flash rate to sort of create an association in your mind of positive and negative. So it's just interesting, I find, to look into these older researchers, because they had less restrictions and they would say openly the things that were a bit questionable. So it's kind of interesting. Let me know if you guys heard about that research, or if you know any other studies like that down below, and let's keep on rocking.
The way he's holding this octopus, you'd think it's completely harmless. It's small, delicate, and crawling calmly across his hand, but it's not. This is Andy McConnell, a British TV expert vacationing in a coastal resort area in Cebu, Philippines. He filmed this after seeing local children playing with it in shallow water. At the time, he didn't realize what he was holding, and there were no warnings posted. What's on his hand is a blue ring octopus. It carries tetrodotoxin, a neurotoxin produced by symbiotic bacteria. The total toxin in a single blue ring octopus is enough to unalive 26 adults. He got it past this time. Luck was on his side. Remember, bright colors are just nature's way of saying don't touch, straight from the fish tank.
So carpets have a very long history. Some of our oldest textiles are rugs. However, many of these rugs were used by people who were nomadic. What does that have to do with all this dust? Well, if you think about it, so they'd roll it out, use it, build a tent, city, and then get on a horse, roll it up. And while they were on the horse, it would be agitated. It's basically like, the thing in your washing machine. And so even though you see these amazing images of rugs in these nomadic tent cities. They probably got a lot less dusty than the ones that are in houses, right? Because they were constantly being used and moved and rolled and agitated.
ครับเอาวันนี้เป็นช่างภาพเขาหน่อย
It's kind of a mind flip because you would expect smaller wheels to make him not move fast at all, but the fact that he has a bigger gear in the middle, I think this is one of the first innovations I've seen on bikes in a long time because, you know, they're basically always the same. I mean, sometimes they have thinner wheels or this or that, but at the end of the day, they have the same structure more or less. Very interesting. I had never seen anything like this. You guys know about this or any other variants of the bike that I should know about? Send it over. I'm always interested to see new applications of things that we've been using for a long time. I find it shows a bit of what we call evolution, which would be adaptation. It's fun to see. So let me know if you guys know of any other type of bikes that way down below. Let's keep on rocking.
This thing lets you walk around on the sea floor. No scuba gear. It's called a diving bell, and here's how it works. They lower this heavy steel chamber into the ocean, open up the bottom, and it's sealed everywhere else. Water pressure keeps the air trapped inside, and the divers literally walk down a staircase onto the sea floor. Fresh oxygen gets pumped in from the surface to keep it breathable inside, and the CO2 gets pumped out. They have lights, they can use their phones, they have heaters. Basically, it's an underwater workroom. They use these to recover artifacts like cannons, gold, and things found on old shipwrecks. It makes it a lot easier to fully investigate the sea floor. So what do you think? This is something that you would sign up for?
This is the rocket.
Wow. I had never heard about that technology. Isn't that amazing? Because I mean, obviously, going down with all the scuba gear is not at all the same as being able to have free roam on the ground. I had never seen anything like that. I find that it's a very good invention because a lot of times we don't really know what's going on in the ocean and on the ocean floor. So having an invention like that, I think, makes a lot of sense. You guys think that makes sense? You guys know of any other type of technology that way? I'd be very curious to find other ones. Let's keep on rocking.
Gibraltar, and hiding inside is one of the most extensive underground networks on the planet. Over 34 miles of tunnels carved straight through the stone. That's more tunnels than roads on the surface. It started in the late 1700s during the Great Siege. You see, British defenders, they needed a way to fire cannons from impossible angles. So they started digging. And then came World War II. Engineers expanded those tunnels into a full-on underground city. We're talking barracks, hospitals, ammo depots, and secure communications hubs. All buried deep inside the rock. Soldiers lived down here for months, protected by hundreds of feet of limestone. Today, some are open to tourists, while others remain sealed or classified. But one thing's for sure, the Rock of Gibraltar isn't just a landmark. It's a mountain engineered for war. The more you know.
Did you know the reason that McDonald's tastes so good, it actually has nothing to do with taste? One day I was buying something from Craigslist, so I met this lady. We got to talking and I asked her, so what do you do? And she says, oh, I'm a chemist. I said, no way, that's crazy. My parents are both chemists. I was like, what kind of chemist? She said, I'm a food scientist. I said, no way. My parents are both food scientists. I said, what kind of food science? She says, I manufacture smells. And I'm just like, huh? What does that mean? Who do you do that for? I manufacture smells for McDonald's. I'm like, what? She said, yeah, you know when you drive by a McDonald's, there's a scent wafting out of the vents? She's like, that's not food. That's a chemical that I made to draw people in when they smell McDonald's. She said the French fries is the same thing. It doesn't taste good because of the potatoes or the oil. We manufacture a chemical and fry it in there so that it can taste like a perfect French fry. Same thing with the burgers. Same thing with the nuggets. Because 80% of taste actually comes from our smell. So I was like, really? McDonald's tastes good because of a chemical you make and put in there to make it smell? And she's like, yep. So I said, given that, would you recommend that I probably don't eat McDonald's? She's like, yep. Guys, this is a lady who makes chemicals for smell at McDonald's is telling us not to eat McDonald's.
This is incredible. BYD has just proven that they have made the safest car ever. So they're putting it through testing that no other car really has gone through. They're dropping a 13-meter tree on it here just to see how it holds up structurally. They come along to test to see how the frame has handled it, to see if the person would survive. Obviously the car's not hardly affected, so it's all good. And in here they're showing what would happen if you went off the road and landed in water. So what happens is you hit the water, the car senses that you're now in water automatically. It'll turn the hazard lights on, and then all of the windows come down just in case you need to make an escape out through one of the windows. You're going to get a little bit wet like you see here. It's absolutely incredible. You're not going to need to jump out of the car. The windows are coming down here, you can see just in case. But it kicks into a mode where you can just drive on the water now and kind of get to safety if you need to. The whole idea that you would go off the road and into water, in most cars, you're done. Like, it's over, game over. The fact that they have thought of this for this car as not much of a feature, but for a safety thing is amazing.
Wow. Isn't that amazing the way that these cars, like these Chinese cars, are getting upgraded in a way that is hard to believe? I mean, gee whiz. I don't know what happened to us, but we used to be one of the prime manufacturers of cars, and it seems like every other thing we've lost the edge. We're no longer competition for these other countries. It's pretty sad. Let me know what you guys think down below. Have you ever seen a BYD? Where I'm at here, they have the BYDs, and to be honest, they're nice cars. They function good. They're not too expensive. I'm not saying we should support China. I'm just saying the cars actually do make sense. Have you guys ever seen any function like this where a car becomes amphibian just because of a mistake? I find it pretty impressive. So let me know what you guys think down below. Let's keep on rocking.
It's not much of a feature, but for a safety thing is amazing.
You're all at 6s and 7s. You're all at 6s and 7s.
I seem to be at 6s and 7s.
All at 6s and 7s.
But Chris!
Things at 6s and 7s at the bank.
I know from my own experience how a house is at 6s and 7s once the staff start marrying each other.
So here's the sequence. 1979, the so-called father of Israel, Michael Issa Harel, told an American journalist there was going to be an on New York's biggest building. The same year, held a conference about the need for a. He wrote a book. He became prime minister eventually, and in 1996, Richard Pearl fronted a group to produce a document for him called A Clean Break. And this called for as much to be generated as possible. And then a year later, the same Richard Pearl was one of the founders of the Project for the New American, co-founded by William Crystal and Robert Kagan, calling for American troops to fight multiple theater wars in the Middle East. It said that this would be necessarily slow, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event, like a new 2000. And 9 months after they came to power, America had what Bush called at the time
The Netherlands just banned and is phasing out artificial turfs with rubber matting. And when you find out why, you'll be shocked we're not doing it here yet. So for the longest time, it would cost money to get rid of old tires for these major companies. But they figured out a way on how to actually profit from this instead of lose money. You recycle them. Sounds good. You grind them up into little pellets, you maybe dye them green, and then you have artificial turf. Or you have plastic grass and then the matting underneath it, so it's soft. But here's the problem. Problem is, these tires are not made of organic rubber. They have a bunch of petroleum and petrochemicals and heavy metals in them, like lead. Yale did a study and found that studies have shown rubber crumb taken from synthetic turf fields contains hazardous materials and VOCs, volatile organic compound. And just touching them, I know there's a lot of playgrounds out there now that have artificial turf. Well, kids are rolling around on that stuff, touching it, touching their face, their skin absorbs it. They may even, they put their hands in their mouths. They're getting exposed to these strange chemicals. One of the reasons Netherlands is banning it is because the goalies, who I guess were in contact with the ground the most of a lot of soccer games, were having a high increase in ailments and illnesses from the exposure to these chemicals. So without being paranoid, you might not want to let your kid play on these fake grass fields and where there's parks and stuff because of the exposure to heavy metals. Share this video. What we can do is limit our exposure to this stuff. We can't solve the problem overnight, but at least with information, like to win the war, you got to know the battlefield, the weapons being used, and know your enemy. So this is one of our damn enemies, these toxic fields.
Did you hear the story about the developer who, instead of renting out one of his largest spaces to a dollar store chain, created room for 60 thriving small businesses instead? If you spent any time around here, you probably have heard other stories about him. It's Monty Anderson, one of the co-founders of Neighborhood Evolution. And this particular story takes place in DeSoto, a middle-class black suburb of Dallas, Texas. It all started when Monty bought a big box store, not unlike the one I'm standing in front of right here. The main difference being, instead of a grocery store, he had an empty Ace Hardware. The mayor came up to Monty and said, please don't rent it out to a dollar store. DeSoto was a place with primarily women-owned and minority-owned small businesses with no real options for entry points. The mayor pointed out that those chains funnel money out of the community up to corporate, instead of lifting up local people with livable wages. Monty told her that the dollar store was literally the only person inquiring about this space, but he really did want to do something that would help the community. He asked if necessary, could he reduce the number of parking spots in the parking lot to the mayor? The mayor said yes. Could he host businesses which were typically unpopular, like tattoo shops? The mayor said yes. Could he build affordable housing on it in the future? The mayor said yes. Though he had bought and sold this property multiple times in the past, he decided he was going to develop it himself this go-round. The first order of business was to cut out a section of the parking lot, to string up lights, add tables and food trailers to create a sort of food truck corral. It's easy to drive by, to miss, and to ignore these big sort of shopping centers when you're not interested in it or looking for it. But it's a lot harder to ignore a place that's buzzing with people. And it worked. The top-selling food trailer sells up to $20,000 of merchandise a week. And the youngest entrepreneur who started a snow cone stand was just 12 years old. And we haven't even gotten into the inside. As you approach the DeSoto marketplace, instead of there being one big opening, you'll see 7 smaller holes punched into the facade. Each of these openings would become a service window for a micro kitchen. In towns across America, you have hundreds of people cooking meals in their own home kitchen, selling plates on Facebook, never imagining that they could own their own space. Business loans in the hundreds of thousands of dollars make that leap impossible. But with Monty's Kitchen, it was just a rent of a couple $1,000s a month with leases as short as 1 year, which is unheard of in the commercial real estate world. And those outward-facing windows turned out to be critical. This project all started in 2018, and then COVID hit. Across Dallas, restaurant properties went dark, but those 7 kitchens were never laid on rent, in part because they were both deeply affordable and set up for takeout. And inside the shopping center, we see something different again. Instead of one monolithic store, Monty chopped it up into 60 individual offices and spaces, with rent as low as $300 a month. In there, you could start a barbershop, launch a vitamin business, or try an idea without risking your life savings. Now here's the thing, some developers might look at this and shake their heads. What's the value in managing 60 small businesses? So Monty pointed out it's like managing an apartment complex with lots of tenants. It does take a mindset shift, but Monty is making more money this way. The old Ace Hardware used to pay $5 a square foot for this space. The dollar store was looking at $7 a square foot. Right now, with all those small businesses, Monty makes around $25 a square foot. The community is thriving. Instead of one big box store, dozens of small businesses are taking root. Hundreds of businesses have come and some have gone. They've either outgrown the space and rent out somewhere else. Maybe they decided that business wasn't for them and they didn't lose their shirt over it. It's been 7 years and it's no longer an experiment. It's thriving and succeeding, and it's in its first rounds of renovations. Housing is still on the horizon, and one of the original tenants might actually buy the space and become the owner of it. This is what is meant by town making and by incremental development, focusing on the local economy. You can create spaces where everybody, the community, the entrepreneur, the developer, they all win.
Wow. I had never heard of town making, and that is amazing. Gee whiz. Instead of selling to one, like you said, Chinese store or some dollar store, which, like you said, you know, the profits leave, but that's not just dollar stores, that's every type of store where the profits leave the community. So this guy ended up breaking it up into pieces, giving opportunities for everyone to have a less of a risk to be able to try something out business wise, and ends up making more money, and the community and the people are bustling and such a beautiful idea. I dare anyone to emulate this idea. And wow, town making, that is such a beautiful term as well. Amazing. If you guys have any other stories, any other examples of this, please send it over. I really love this idea. Now let's keep on rocking.
Our kids are sick. This is not their fault. Yeah. And we have to be honest. If we're going to rebuild public trust, which we try to do every day, we have to show some humility. This is not their fault. Look at what we do to kids. We rattle them in the middle of the night in their sleep cycle, disrupting their circadian rhythm to put them on a school bus when it's dark. They sit in a classroom with less natural light exposure than most inmates in a penitentiary. We load them with that spike their insulin levels all day long. Now they have snack lists. We didn't eat snacks, during class and between class. They have snack lists. It's all highly processed foods, the sort of foods that Kyle's talking about. And then we hit them again with a load, and we tell them to sit still at a desk for 7 hours, and they can't do it. They struggle. And what do? We scale. It's wrong. We have to address it and be honest with the problem.
It's a $3.8 million grant that went to the last year. And the purpose of the grant, from my understanding of the text, is to build multi-occupancy at Lebanese ski school. Could you explain to hungry taxpayers why it would be a good use of their money to send $4 million to Lebanese?
I do think there's a lot of benefits that we could cite just in terms of why we actually provide money internationally. And perhaps I could just turn to my colleagues who could provide a little bit more detail just in terms of some of that rationale.
Yeah, thanks very much for your question. And supporting international development it's not about choosing between helping others and helping ourselves. It's really about recognizing that we live in this interconnected world where global stability, health, and prosperity directly affect. So we take the perspective that by addressing issues like poverty, like inequality and conflict in countries around the world, whether it's global south or other countries where poverty exists or security challenges exist, as they do in Lebanon, international assistance directly supports their prosperity as well as their well-being.
I take your answer to be that to help pay for their rent somehow.
Regular times, her name is Bunny.
There's really something wrong when you need the government to send money and help people when they have a hard time to help themselves. I mean, theoretically, if they wouldn't take our money, then we could help ourselves and maybe help others, right? So there's something really fuzzy about this whole international, because basically, one country is giving to another, but then that country is also giving to another, and at the end it comes back, but it seems like just a big write-off, just a big money transfer, sort of like when you have shell companies and you transfer the money from one place to another. Anyways, let me know what you guys think down below, but I just don't agree with anything that doesn't have any direct help. Like she basically answered a word salad, right? Like in my mind, whether you're in that country or another country, when someone is not able to justify something like that, in my mind, they should have a conviction, and we should put them in jail for a month or charge them for something. You can't answer the question, you can't be honest, you can't help your people, then boom. Right now, there's just zero consequences. You ask a question, they lie, they don't answer, they omit. There's no consequences. I'm telling you, put them in jail, put 5 or 6 in jail, and you'll see next time you ask a question, they will be present, they will be answering. But the thing is, it's like in life. If there's no consequences for passing a red light, everyone's going to pass the red light, right? Very simple in my mind. Maybe I'm missing something. Please let me know down below what I'm missing, because to me, it just doesn't really make sense that they don't answer you and they're appropriating the funds this way. So let me know what you guys think down below. Let's keep on rocking.
Pay for their rent somehow.
Regular times, her name is Bunny. But when she's in drag, whoopee! My jazz buddy.
These are 11, 12 years old. This is CBC Kids. This is real. What you're seeing is real. This is what they're doing and what they're... I cannot believe this.
I'm a queen, meaning a female drag queen. My drag name is also my real name. Simple. I'm Jason Kerr, and my drag name is Susan B. Anthony. My name is Nemes. My drag name is Lactatia. I'm Stefan, and my drag name is Lady Gaga.
I cannot get this video out of my head. I've shared it with so many of my friends, and it's truly one of the most to know that other parents, mothers, and fathers, people approve this at CBC to go live on air. This is that is honestly truly disgusting. And I don't care, again, if you want to be a drag queen, you're an adult, do whatever you want. Honestly, if you want to be like this, it makes me happy to know that we live in a free country and you can do whatever you want. But this is about our children. This is not what... Why are we choosing to put this content in front of our kids when there's a million other things that they could be learning and being entertained about? But this is what we're putting out there? This is unbelievable and unimaginable. It's unacceptable. I am going to be filing a complaint to the CRTC. And please, I ask you, if you can spare a moment, you should do the same. Let's bring our voices together and stop this madness. And please, somebody educate me. If I am out of touch and wrong on this, please someone tell me, because I'm having a really hard time knowing that a whole bunch of adults approve.
Just watching that short video, I feel disgusting. I feel like I shouldn't have watched that. I feel like it wasn't meant for me. It wasn't appropriate. I feel like disgust, because it's not something that kids should be doing, and it's not something, especially if I'm not mistaken, CBC is state owned. So I mean, it's money from the taxpayers that are paying to enforce this type of behavior and push it forward, right? So really, really sad, really sad. And this is not a question of what people are allowed to do. People are allowed to do anything they want. These are children. It's not the same thing. They can't get a tattoo. They can't drink alcohol. They can't join the army. There's so many things that they can't do. So to act that this is normal, I don't know. I just don't feel it. Enlighten me. Maybe I'm missing something. Like the guy was saying, maybe there's something I'm not getting. So please enlighten me. But man, anyways, thank you so much for rocking with us. And that's a wrap for today, familia. Whether you're tuning in with the sunrise or you're posted up after midnight, I appreciate your time, your energy, your curiosity. And don't forget, this isn't about truth or fiction. This is about perspective. If this sparked a thought, a laugh, a deeper question, then we did our job. So drop your thoughts in the comments, keep the convo alive, like, subscribe, and hit that bell if you're riding the wave, because we're just getting started. So until next time, stay grounded, stay weird, stay critical. This is Adam Strain, and this has been Adam Strain Reacts. Peace! Now it's time for us to link up. Really think we on the brink up. Making a change from living this strange.